This is Move for Change Ministries. We are very happy to be on the airwaves another night, and we are tremendously grateful for your presence night after night supporting this ministry. Tonight, our program would be somewhat of a different, and if you look at the promote today, we will be dealing with a specific topic on more health today, and our topic tonight would be talking about the effects after COVID, post COVID effects. I'm Baxter Lewis, your host for Move for Change Ministries. We thank you for joining, and we pray that you would just share this program with a friend, share with your neighbor, your mama, your papa. I just love saying this because it just sounds good. Share with everybody because we are people about sharing, and we are very privilege of sharing these messages and these programs with you from this vantage point. And we would like you to share with somebody else. We are about just giving, 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 giving. So we welcome you, and those on the back end, we are not seeing the names as yet. We thank you for joining. And as you join, take a time and share with us. This evening, we have a very special guest out of New York City, and we are very grateful to have her on set with us tonight by the name of Dr. Rhonda Cambridge, and I'll be bringing her up on the screen now. Doc, we welcome you to this live broadcast. How are you doing?
I am fabulous. Happy New
Mm,
Year.
yeah, I've been
Happy New Year to you. Happy New Year to everybody who's tuning in with us. It is great to be back. It's great to
great,
be back.
great, great. I remember those programs we did last year, but it's good to be back on with us and always looking forward for your presence with us because you have so much information to share with us and with the world, as a doctor. And Dr. Ronna Cambridge, I would just like you take the time and share some of your background with the world.
Hmm. My background. Okay, so I am speaking to you from Brooklyn, New York, where I was born and raised. My parents are from the Caribbean, Trinidad and Tobago to be exact. My mother was born in Tobago. My father was born in Trinidad. And I've been a physician. Whenever I say that number, I've been a physician for 23 years, almost 24 years. Um, it doesn't seem that long, but somehow when I say that number,
Mm-hmm.
it's yeah, that's 2 decades. So I work in a busy inner city hospital here in Brooklyn, New York, and when I'm working at that hospital, I work with children and teenagers and young adults. So I am a board certified and licensed pediatrician with a specialty in adolescent medicine. But I also hold a master's degree in public health and I'm also a certified wellness coach. So that's the role I'm filling tonight. And I do a lot of work in the community, really helping people in our community to be, how do I say, to be proactive when it comes to their health instead of reactive.
Okay.
So I work with people who are really looking to focus on their wellness in an all-rounded
A wrong thing.
way,
Okay.
in a holistic way, and really wanting to take charge of their health in in a different way,
Okay.
right? So of course we know that we're supposed to be going to our physicians for your yearly checkup. And of course, if you develop any symptoms or any issues or any health concerns, you definitely want to go to your physician. And I support that, of course, because I am one, right? But I work with people who want to take a little bit more action on the back end of things because
Mm-hmm.
we as physicians expect that our patients are going to be doing things to stay healthy even before they get to us. And so I focus a lot with my clients around the area of wellness and lifestyle,
Okay.
right? Paying attention to what you're eating, what you're drinking, obviously what you're putting into your body, what you're putting on your body,
Mm-hmm.
how much sleep you're getting, how you manage your stress level, and taking a look at health in a rounded sense of the word, not only your physical health, but your emotional health, your psychological health, and your spiritual health,
Okay.
of course. We need that foundation there.
Doc, you mentioned
So,
something there a while ago that caught my attention. You talk about what you put in on your body. We know about putting in, right? What we eat, what we drink. Okay. What tell us a little more about what you put on your body.
you picked that up. I wasn't
Yeah,
sure if you were gonna pick that
I
up.
did. I did.
And guys, to the audience, this is not rehearsed. We're just conversing here,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what I love. It's all live. So I kind of snuck that in because
Right.
sometimes, the skin. Let's start with that. The
Mm,
skin is the largest organ of the body. Sometimes we don't think of our skin as an organ, but it is.
right.
It's the largest organ of the body. And sometimes we don't pay attention to the health of our skin. And your skin is a window, oftentimes, into what's going on inside,
Okay.
right? So if the quality, the integrity of your skin has changed or is not functioning the way it is, that actually can leave your body open to
Vulnerable.
absorb things that it wouldn't, because the skin also serves as a barrier, right? To a lot of things. So that's why I said sometimes we have to pay attention to uh, what we put on our
Mm-hmm.
skin,
Okay.
and making sure that our skincare products, even for the women, our cosmetics are, all natural and don't have a lot of harmful chemicals. So that was my little
Okay.
way of sticking that in, because this month I'm focusing a lot on natural detoxing for the body,
Mm-hmm.
and I've been doing a lot to prepare for my clients joining me. I've been doing a lot of research on skin health, and
Okay.
you know
Okay.
just how it can how it plays a role in our health.
Okay.
So thanks for picking that up. That was
Yeah, yeah.
nice.
That felt very important to me about putting on the body and so on. So Doc, how can people contact you in your private practice?
Well, my private practice, again, focuses on health and wellness coaching. Right now, since the COVID, it's all online,
Mm-hmm.
right? So people can just go to my website, which is just my full name with the letters DR in front of it for doctor. So it's if you my website is just Dr. DR
Mm-hmm.
Rhonda Cambridge
Okay.
Phillip.com.
And they find you there
Right. So
and can get in contact with
you can
you.
find me there. You can find me there. You can learn a little bit more about me and my training, my philosophy towards health and wellness. You can send me a message there. You can contact me there. You can find my email, my phone number. Obviously, you're on the website, but you can send me messages there, and we can stay connected that way as
And
well.
you and
If
you and you
anyone's
and you respond quite
sure.
fast.
Yes, yes,
Beautiful,
yes,
beautiful.
yes.
So you
I
heard
do my
Doctor,
best.
you heard Dr. Rhonda Cambridge there. You can find out private practice also on our website. and it's a good thing to do. She is wronged, I should say, physician, and she would really like to hear from you. And right now, we look to go into our program for tonight, which we'll be talking about post-COVID effect. And you can put your questions in the chat box, and Dr. Rhonda would surely respond to those questions. I'll read them off. She will surely respond to them. And welcome again to this program, Doc. And feel warm and comfortable. I'm very warm and I'm very comfortable and very happy to have you on again.
Yes, I
Mm,
feel the same too. I feel the energy here
yeah,
between us
right.
across the internet. We
Okay.
always have a good
A good
so I love
connection.
it.
Yeah.
And your audience be very live as well.
Yeah.
I can't
Hmm.
wait till they start getting busy in the chat. I love that as well.
Yes,
So
yes.
I'm
I
looking
know you
forward
like
to that.
that. Yeah, I know you love that. Okay, Doc, we talk about post-COVID effect. We had COVID for approximately 3 years, something like that, right? And I want to ask a question directly to you before I go into that. How much of that
Mhm.
affected you as a doctor, knowing dealing with all these people from different levels?
Hmm. It really did. It opened my eyes to a lot.
Mm-hmm.
It affected me on a personal level because I had some, personal friends, some colleagues that unfortunately are not with us today,
Okay.
right? So it affected me personally in that way. I'm also a mom, and I have two girls that are school age, so I was very afraid there. I'm also taking care of my mom who's elderly now, and so I was very afraid because I didn't want to expose her to anything because I know that as you get older, your immune
Mm-hmm.
system is a little weaker. And of course, I'm out in the field and working and coming home, and so it affected me personally. It did. Professionally, it also affected me because even though I have been practicing all these years, I had never seen anything
Like
like
this.
it.
Okay.
So you know that we read about it in history,
Mm-hmm.
right? In medical history, this is not like the first outbreak ever. So we hear about the history as you go through your training, especially with infectious disease and microbiology. You learn in history outbreaks, how they occur, how they spread, how they get contained. But it was stuff that you like read about, and it really didn't resonate until having to go through something like what we went through. There were a lot of first responders, a lot of physicians, a lot of um, healthcare workers, our nurses, we were all feeling it. We were all afraid,
Mm-hmm.
but we were all feeling it, and we knew that this is what we signed up for. We signed up to be men and women of service, and we didn't have the luxury to stay home.
Okay.
We didn't have the luxury to shelter in place. When people were complaining of sheltering
Mm-hmm.
in place, oh, I'm stuck in my house, I need air.
Mm-hmm.
We
Mm-hmm.
were like,
Head
I
on.
wish, I wish I could have that.
Mm.
Please, can I shelter in place? But
Head on.
yeah, we had to go out there. We had to go out there. And then remember I said that when I'm working in the hospital, I practice pediatrics, and then, it was hitting the pediatric population
Hard.
very hard as well, and that was scary.
You know.
That was scary
Yeah.
because kids are usually resilient. They usually bounce back.
Mm-hmm.
But when you start seeing kids who are not bouncing back, you're like, ooh, this is a lot.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot. And then we had to deal with the triple demic, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we kind of got COVID under control a little bit, and we're going to be talking about post-COVID effects and all of that. So we were getting COVID under control because
Mm-hmm.
there were enough people who decided to and felt comfortable getting vaccinated that we were able to reach some sort of herd immunity to protect those who didn't choose to get vaccinated. And so we felt like we had a handle, and we're opening things up. Schools are open, airports, restaurants, movie theaters, Broadway, everything was opening
Mm-hmm.
up. And then here we think we get a handle on thing, and then the flu is a thing, and the
Mm-hmm.
RSV is a thing, and so it was like, what can we catch a break?
So,
Can we catch
do you think that after Carnival we would have a spike again?
Now you're gonna mess with my carnival time. I'll tell you a little secret.
That one
Um,
just came to my head, you know.
into your head, right? So I
Mm-hmm.
know, depending on how people feel about carnival. Now, remember, I was not born in the Caribbean, and I never had the opportunity to participate in carnival in Trinidad or in Tobago that way, just because the timing.
You're right.
But I did always participate in the version of carnival that New York City has. And that's something that I had been doing since I was very, very young.
Okay.
Kitty's Carnival, and understanding the culture, why mass is a culture for us, and why that, what that means for us as a culture. And so I understand it. But it remains to be seen. I'm not sure what will happen. Anytime there are large
Gathering.
gatherings, right? There's always a risk, and of course, viruses mutate all the
Mm-hmm.
time. The strain of COVID, I'm not sure the statistics where you are and where our listeners are. It depends what strain is
Mm-hmm.
the most dominant one there, right? Because it can vary. But there are new strains just always popping up because the virus is mutating. It's like the flu almost, in a sense, and I think it will become that way, where it's recommended that we would, just like we recommend to get a yearly flu shot,
Mm-hmm.
a flu vaccine. Um, I believe, I believe that may be what we're looking at for
After Carnival.
COVID,
Okay.
of because of the mutations, and just how smart these microorganisms are, and
Mm-hmm.
just outsmarting
Okay,
us.
okay. Okay, let me just connect up with those on there, on our viewers outside there in the open world, and we just are talking tonight about post-COVID effect. We are looking to go right now into the questions for tonight. We had a long chat about what's happening, around COVID time for the past 3 years, but now we'll be going directly into the program. I want to welcome those who are online viewing this program right now. We pray that you just stay on, stay locked in. You are now connected to Move for Change, and we're having a very, very interesting program tonight. We should be benefiting you some way or the other. So stay locked on. We have with us as guest tonight Dr. Rhonda Cambridge, and she will really be opening up our eyes tonight. Doc, my first question for you, as from your experience, how most people are viewing COVID now? From your experience, talking with people, working in the hospital, we are coming to the endemic. Am I saying it right? Right? How do you
You're
think most
right.
people are viewing COVID now?
You're right to use that word endemic, where basically, to put it really simple, and just um simplify it as much as I can, it just means that now we're getting used to uh having to live with COVID as a virus, as we do a lot of other microorganisms. The flu, strep, staph, a lot of other viruses that we and bacteria that are common. So we are at that endemic stage. I think I've seen a lot of different views, and I think it depends on how COVID affected you. So if it personally affected you, like
Mm-hmm.
if you knew someone that was challenged and had to deal with the virus and had a moderate to severe type of infection, which kind of knocked them out a little bit or just made them have to take a few steps back and, regroup and reset. Um, or if you knew someone who unfortunately, again, is no longer with us right now, um, your view of COVID is going to be different than if you didn't deal with it at all.
Okay.
You don't even know anyone that had it. You were not exposed to it. Thank God. That actually is a blessing. You weren't touched in any way. That's what I'm seeing the difference is. So I feel like people who were really touched by it,
Mm-hmm.
um, they just have a different reaction than those
We're
that
touched by it.
were not.
Okay.
Yeah, were not.
Okay.
So I
Okay.
think that is the difference I'm seeing. And it's important to, when you speak to people or people give their views, and we people have certain thoughts or beliefs and this is about anything.
Mm-hmm.
It helps to have a background to kind of understand their point of view, because we may not always agree on things, but we can always try to understand that backstory and understand why people say the things they say or
Right.
do the things they do. And that helps us to coexist in this world of a lot of uncertainty sometimes.
Do you think some people are
So
going carefree? They just doesn't matter what happen.
yeah, yeah, I do I do think some people are carefree, and and they have reasons for that. And then I see people who are still masking up, and of course, if they're in large groups, they have their mask, really
Mm-hmm.
still paying attention to not gathering in large groups, or really going with people who you know, have been vaccinated or have some kind of immunity because they've had the COVID
Mm-hmm.
infection, although that's no guarantee, because with all the different strains, you can
Right.
get COVID again and again and again because of the different strains. So there are people that are I don't know if I would use the word carefree, because it sounds like they really don't care about it, and I'm not sure if that's true.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say that there are people who are still very concerned, and they have a reason to be. And then there are others who are not as
Mm-hmm.
concerned, and they probably have a reason to be as well.
Well, that question came to mind, relating to what you just said. How do you feel from your personal experience, the carefreers, or those who really care and those who do not care that much about it? What is your advice as a doctor to them, to
I
both
would,
both
I mean,
persons?
right. So what I would say is, we have to meet somewhere in the middle. We
Mm-hmm.
have to. Again, I would like to treat this how we treat, other situations where you may not agree on everything, but we can find some things to agree on. And where I've fallen is having people respect one another as much as possible, and having people take care of one another. So say for example, I use myself as an example. So I would consider myself a high risk individual, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I would say I'm high risk because I'm a healthcare professional.
Okay.
I I work in a hospital setting. So my exposure is going to be different from someone who's not, right? I would say I'm also high risk because um, I'm taking care of my mother who's elderly and has a weaker immune system. So I'm going to be a little bit more careful because I don't want to bring anything home to my mom because the way I might be able to bounce back,
Mm-hmm.
and
Your mom might not.
I say might, because I try to do my best to keep my immune system strong. I do my best to eat well. I stay hydrated, get enough sleep. I exercise. I try to manage my stress level. I'm, of course, we can always work on these things, and I try to make sure that my spiritual faith and my foundation is strong. All these things have a play a role in the health of your immune system. So I try to do that. So I'm hoping that if I, you know, do get COVID
Mm-hmm.
personally, my body will be able to bounce back. But then I have my mom who's living with me who maybe not so much.
Right.
So a lot of the things that I do is not so much for me, it's for the people around
Around
me,
you. Mm-hmm.
right? So that's what I want people to think. Like you think about your own personal risk factor.
Mm-hmm.
Are you at high risk for contracting COVID infection? So it depends on your underlying health issues, right? If you have underlying health issues, diabetes, obesity, high blood pressure, heart disease, autoimmune disorders, there's certain underlying things. So if you fall into a category of high risk, then you may move differently,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or if you have high risk people around you, you may move differently. If your job puts you at high risk, you may move differently. There's some people who they don't, they so I'm in New York, right? So there's some people that don't take public transportation. They just drive to work or they drive to wherever or they work from home because some people are still working from home, right? So their risk might be a little different, but then you have the person who had to go back to work and has to commute and has to be on the bus and the train. Think about our kids who are back in school now, and there may be traveling as well. So, what I say is think about your risk factors, think about the risk factors of the close people around you,
Mm-hmm.
and do our best to take care of one another. It's what we need to do as Christians, right?
Right.
So
This,
put that into practice.
there's a question here for you
Okay.
in relation to what you just said about people around you, and this question is coming from Tiffany. Tiffany is asking, I am traveling on the bus. How can I protect myself from others when I am, listen carefully, when I am wearing a mask? In other words, I think what she's injecting there, if you can catch COVID, even though you're wearing your mask otherwise.
Yes, because it depends. So I have a mask here, right? I just
Mm-hmm.
happen to have one. So it depends on how you wear your mask. First of all, you see this mask is clean, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know if you can see, but this
Yeah, I'm seeing
mask
you.
it's a brand new mask. It hasn't been used by anyone else. It's clean, right? So it's the first time I'm gonna put it on. So then it depends how you wearing your mask. So let's see. Let's put this into practice. I didn't plan this, but we're gonna do it anyway. Are you wearing your mask like this?
Okay, right. So,
Are you wearing your mask? So maybe some people wear it like that. Some people. Some people, are you wearing your mask like this? Are you wearing your mask like this? Are you wearing your mask like this? Or are you wearing your mask like this and you're putting a seal? You're putting your nice little seal here, right? And you're making sure it covers here, down here, and there's no gap here. How are you wearing your mask?
So everything must be sealed all
Seal
around.
here. Yes.
So you're
Seal.
saying that the virus can actually find its way through the closest it's like airborne, it goes through the closest space.
So, I mean, it can find its way through spaces, right? And so you have to make sure that you're wearing your mask properly. You have to make sure you have your nice seal. You have to make sure that the mask is clean. So now that if especially for women when we wear our makeup, once your makeup gets on it, you can't use that mask again.
Okay.
Sometimes we'll reuse and reuse and reuse and reuse. The other thing is, of course, the same thing. We're going to do the same thing, making sure you wash your hands,
Mm-hmm.
making sure you try not to touch, how we like to rub our eyes and
Mm-hmm.
rub our nose. And, you get some, you want to try not to do that, especially if your hands are not clean. So I think it's still a good idea to have your little pocket of hand sanitizer in your
Mm-hmm.
bag. Just have them in every bag, in a coat pocket, you know, so that you make sure that you keep your hands clean. I don't know if you have to go to the point where, because I see some people doing that too, and it's their comfort level. Some people are actually wearing gloves still, and I don't know if you have to go that far,
Far.
but if you feel comfortable doing that, then do it.
Okay.
But it's not that you just keep your hands clean. You frequent washing or hand sanitizer use if you're not close to water and soap, and then you got to also make sure that you're washing your hands properly as well, making sure you're getting under the nails, the nail bed, and everything, because there's a lot of things. And remember, it's not just about COVID anymore, but it's still around. It's still about the flu. It's about RSV. It's about strep. It's about staph. It's about
It's a
all
whole lot.
those.
It's a whole lot to deal with.
It's just about all the things that we could be exposed to,
Mm-hmm.
that sometimes your immune system may not be functioning the way it's supposed to, and you just want to have an extra layer of protection, which I think is okay.
Okay.
So I think that's the best way to protect yourself when you're on the bus or the train, or you're in an area where there are a lot of people who you don't really know, or you're just at a
Mm-hmm.
large gathering. It's just make sure you wear your mask properly and pay attention to hand hygiene. It's the biggest thing that you can do. And obviously, if you are sick,
Stay
just do us
home.
all a favor. Stay home. But
Stay home.
that's what we should be doing in general, not necessarily because of COVID. But if you're sick, you're not feeling well, you got a little sniffle, you got a cough, even though you might not be feeling bad, but you have some symptoms and you're not sure, still stay home. Even if you do your COVID test and your rapid test is negative,
Mm-hmm.
still stay home until you get better.
Okay, Doc, I just want to connect for a moment. Let's take a little break. I just want to connect with those on who are on the program right now. I'm seeing Derosa Kennedy. We thank you for joining. We are talking tonight about post-COVID effects. In other words, what happens after COVID, because we are in the endemic state, Doc is saying, and what happens. And there's a very important question that is coming up just now that is would be of great importance to each and every one of us. So we thank you again for joining. We have with us Dr. Rhonda Cambridge out of New York City, and we're very happy to have her. She's breaking this thing down in small bits and pieces for us, and we thank you for doing that. Now, there's a question for you that just came up in my mind. You talked early on about underlying factors,
Yep.
right? Talk a little bit more about that with people and COVID in this time, you know?
hmm So I mentioned if people have underlying chronic health issues, that their health is not the best to begin with, or their immune system is not as strong, and their body's already busy trying to deal with another health issue. If you add anything else onto that, COVID, for example, it's going to be harder for your body to fight. So, this is actually what we see with the statistics and in research and all of the cases of COVID. The difference between having a very mild form of COVID and a moderate to severe case that can come with a lot of complications, including the long COVID state. That long COVID
Hmm.
state where after you initially have the COVID infection, you don't get completely better. You still have symptoms that are lingering for months, after even years sometimes, right? And you can have a lot of complications. the the different what we're seeing is that people who have underlying health issues, uncontrolled high blood pressure, uncontrolled diabetes, autoimmune disorders like lupus or rheumatoid arthritis, um, patients who have cancer, they tend to have a harder time clearing the infection, and their risk for the long COVID state is higher.
Is it that they die
You,
faster
you,
too? Can it can kill them much faster?
it's possible. It is possible. A lot of the deaths that we are seeing, not all of them, but a lot of them were in people who have underlying health issues,
Hmm.
right? And so that is something that is actually true. It is.
Can you?
So that's why it's important to, if you already know you have risk factors, then again, the way you move might be a little bit different.
Different.
But even if you don't have risk factors, if you're around people who have risk factors, right, you might want to do your part to protect them,
Okay.
because we're all in this together. We have to work together, and we have to get the point where we're not thinking, okay, well, I'm good. Because if you're good, but your brother and sister are not good, you're not really good. So we have to be good as a unit, as a people, as a society, you know?
Okay.
So
Can you draw the connection between those who are high risk with COVID? You understand my question? Because we mentioned earlier on that people who are high risk, they can die faster, because of the high risk. Put together that connection with death and COVID and high risk. What happens in the body really? Is it that a breaking down of the system because of certain diseases and so on?
right. So it depends on the underlying risk factor. So say for example, an older person. You take an older person, someone who's, I don't know, 95 or so, 85, 65. Just take an older person, right? As you get older, your
Hmm.
immune system naturally gets weaker. It's a
Okay.
natural thing, right? And in order for your body to clear the COVID infection or any infection, the cells of the immune system have to be functioning in tip-top shape. And if the cells of your immune system are already not functioning properly, then when you are faced with COVID infection, the cells that are supposed to clear the infection, kill the virus, they're not doing their job, right? As well as if you have, it might not be AIDS, but again, if you have an underlying health issue that depresses the immune system, and that could be cancer, right? Cancer is a problem with your immune system. Diabetes as well, certain forms of diabetes, certain forms of thyroid disorder are issues with your immune system. You need those cells to fight off the infection. And if those cells are not functioning properly, if the cells are not strong enough, or you don't, or your body's not able to replicate those cells to make more with enough time as the virus is replicating, then there's this fight there. And who's gonna win the fight? If you have more viral copies or you have
Got
more
it, got it, got it,
um
got it,
themselves. Who's
got it,
gonna win the fight?
got it.
It's like your body's at war, right? You have the COVID is like the enemy, and their soldiers 1,000, and then your soldiers maybe 100, 500. It's nowhere close. You're outnumbered. You're outnumbered. So we have to make sure that we're always giving our body the tools so that our soldiers are standing at attention, ready and waiting and looking on guard, guarding, guarding the body so that anything that tries to come in, whether it be COVID, the flu, some kind of toxin or some kind of fungus or bacteria, whatever it is,
Mm-hmm.
that our soldiers, which are the cells of the immune system, they're gonna be like picking them off like in a video game. Ask kids. Kids know what I'm talking about when they're playing their video games and
Mm-hmm.
they're looking and boop, 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 boop. That's what you need your body to be doing.
Doc.
But if it's busy fighting off something else,
Mm-hmm.
it can't do it.
Doc, I have a question for you. I'm squeezing one in. Do you believe
Sure.
in natural remedies?
Of course. Of course. Of course. The issue is sometimes, okay, I believe in balance. I
Okay.
believe in balance. Everything has to be in balance, right? What I find sometimes is that we tend to be more on one side
Mm-hmm.
or the other, but we don't have that compromise. It's the same thing. Everything is about compromise and balance. We can't only believe in natural medicine and our herbs and our vitamins and our minerals, and not believe in the role that traditional medication plays. Because if you have COVID,
Mm-hmm.
and if it's a severe infection, yes, you could drink all your turmeric, your onion, your garlic, your all of that, your wheatgrass, your sea moss, all the things that we like to blend up and drink.
Mm-hmm.
Throw a little ginger in there and some honey, and we have our little tincture in the morning or midday at night, and that can play a role as well. But you might also need some medication, and what's wrong with that?
Okay.
There's nothing wrong with that. It should be in balance.
Okay.
Everything should be in balance.
So if you are taking medication, right? Doctor's medication, and you talk about natural remedy, you believe in that as a medical doctor. How far between should you take these medication? You are taking a doctor's medication, but you believe in your herbs. Is there a time span
Right.
between both of them?
Yeah, you good question. Good question. So two things I want to say. I have to make a disclaimer here, right? Because it depends on what medication, there's so many different medications, right? So it depends on what medication you're on and what herb you're taking. Sometimes an herb can make a medicine work better. Sometimes it can interfere with how your medication is working in a negative way, right? And then you can end up doing more harm than
Than
good.
good.
So if you're on any medication, you definitely want to cross check whatever herb or natural remedy that you want to use. check with your physician to make sure that it's not going to interfere in a negative way with your medication, because that's not something that you want. But a good rule of thumb, and that was a good question, is you don't want to take them at the same time. So if you take your medication, some people take their medication in the morning with a meal.
Mm-hmm.
So then you want to wait at least 3 hours before you take any herb. That is always my recommendation. You don't want to take them at the same time. And this is the same thing because sometimes you can't even take medications at the same time. You may be taking 3 different medications, but you can't take them all at the same time for the same reason. You have to
Space them out.
space them out. Right. So it's the same thing. But you always want, I believe in herbs. And when I make recommendations for herbs or vitamins or minerals, I always want to get a list of the medication someone is on so I can be sure it's not going to interfere in a negative way.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, sometimes taking the herbs, it actually makes the medication work better so you could be on less of it and have less side effects.
Can
Right?
you break
And
that
that's
down
a
a little bit? The herbs would make the medication work a little better. Can you just simple just you don't have to go too far into it. Can you just break that a little bit?
okay.
How does it
So,
work?
so let me give an example. So say for example, like a high blood pressure medication. There's some high blood pressure medications that require um certain nutrients that should already be in the body to work,
Okay.
right? Say for example your calcium, vitamin D, magnesium, things of that nature. You need those nutrients already in your body to regulate the blood pressure level, and that is also what your medication is trying to do. So sometimes what happens is for the medication to work, you need certain nutrients on board. A very good example is iron and vitamin C. So a lot of times someone may be anemic or have a low blood count, and that's called anemia. There are many different kinds of anemia, but a common form is iron deficiency anemia. You don't have enough iron in your body. And then we as physicians will prescribe an iron supplement, a prescription. We'll also prescribe vitamin C along with that iron because the vitamin C helps your body to absorb the iron better, right? So that is a classic example. So your body, the medication needs certain nutrients for for it to work or exert its effect in the body. And if you don't have that particular nutrient on board, then the medication doesn't work properly. That's the
Got
best,
it.
simplest example
That you can give.
I can think of. And a lot of people probably could identify that because you might have been, your doctor might have prescribed iron and then say, okay, take it with orange juice or apple juice. Or they may actually have written you a prescription for vitamin C. And you might be wondering, why do I need that? That is the reason.
Okay, okay. Doc, before we go into our next main question, I'm putting one in. Zinc and calcium, should they can they be taken together?
Right. So zinc and calcium should not be taken together. They should be taken separate, actually, because they can, how do I say, there's an interaction in the body that can be opposite. So you don't want to take them, you don't want to take them together. You want to take them separate.
The reason why I asked that, I tried it out, right? And
Hmm.
I took zinc and calcium together, and I find I was getting a real like my tummy. I was feeling so sick, like I'm out of it. And then I tried it another time, and I felt the same way.
But
So
you took them both together.
together.
Yeah. So I
Mm-hmm.
I would separate, and that's a good point too. That there are, just like we say, so you can't take all medications together, and some herbs you can't take with certain, and some vitamins you can't take with certain medications. It's the same thing with your vitamins and minerals and herbs. Sometimes you just can't pour everything together
Right.
and take it. And it depends on what it is. That's why it's important to have someone who can work with you, who's knowledgeable in that area, who can tell you, okay,
How
here,
to do it.
don't take two together, wait at least 30 minutes before 30 minutes to an hour between your zinc and your calcium. That would be my recommendation for you. Actually try that and see how that works, because calcium is important for the body. Calcium and vitamin D, we know, and
Hmm.
magnesium and zinc is also very important for your, not only your immune system, but it's important for your skin, and it's important for a lot of other things in
Okay,
the
let me get
body.
a let me
So,
get a little personal. For guys around my age, 57, what supplements should we be take? Should we take?
well, first you want to make sure that before we even get to the supplements, you want to make sure that you have a balanced diet as much as possible. In general, you should be eating mainly whole foods, right? Mainly plants and vegetables, right? Though that should be like the biggest part of your plate, your fruits
Hmm.
and your vegetables. That should be the biggest one there. You need some protein. Of course, not all of your protein has to come from meat. There are great plant-based sources of protein, and you do need a good source of healthy fat. That could come from your avocado oil, some nuts if you like nuts. It can come from um, deep cold water fish, right? Like your salmon, your mackerel, things of that nature. So you need your healthy fats. But then when it comes to supplements, especially because depending on where you are, your access to quality food might be different in terms of having great access to truly organic foods that doesn't have herbicides and pesticides and chemicals, and foods that are not force riped, and
Hmm.
have to travel hundreds of thousands of miles to get to us. You don't have that problem, because you could just go in the ocean and fish every
Yeah,
morning and get.
we have a natural thing right here.
You don't
Yeah.
have, but not all of us are so lucky, right? So we
Hmm.
have to we get our food from elsewhere. So that's where supplements come in, because you have to give your body what it's not getting in the regular food.
Hmm.
So that's where a general multivitamin that has your vitamin A, your vitamin C, your D, your E, your zinc, your magnesium, your folate, all your B vitamins. Um, the list can go
Goes
on
on.
and on, but
So.
a good general multivitamin. And
Hmm.
then also for the men, we also want to make sure that we're paying attention to the health of the prostate, especially for our Black men, our men of color. That is an issue that, plagues our community. And a good nutrient for that is something called saw palmetto.
You get it from tomatoes, right?
No, it's can I put this in the chat?
Lycopene. Yeah, you can. Let
Saw
me.
palmetto.
Yeah, right.
Saw Yeah, lycopene is
Lycopene is from
also lycopene
lycopene
is from
comes from
tomatoes. Tomatoes
tomatoes.
is
Yeah, I
is
made
a
a
good
mistake there early
source.
on. Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm. Come.
lycopene, a
Yeah,
good source of
you can put that in the chat. You can put it in chat. Doc, let me just connect while you're putting that in chat. Let me just connect with those who have just jumped onto the program. I'm seeing Sandra Lewis, Natalie Marcel. Tonight we are talking about post-COVID effect. Of course, we are putting one and two questions in between. What is happening after COVID as we are in the endemic state? And we just want you to stay locked on with us tonight. We have Dr. Rhonda Cambridge out of New York City. She's just briefing us and giving us a little tidbits of what we should do and what is happening on post-COVID effect. We are going to a very important question right now. So please, please, please stay locked on. Do not touch your dial. We are going right back to our regular programming. So, Doc, welcome back to the program right now. Our next question is, what are some of the effects after COVID, from COVID? Some of the after effects. Post, we're talking about post, you're talking about after. What are some of the effects that are affecting people right now, as you can see?
So some people, when they have the COVID infection, like I was saying before, it's a very mild infection, lasts a couple of weeks. They may have, fever for a few days, cough, some joint pain, but it after a couple of weeks, they're they're back to feeling much better.
Okay.
You have what's the post-COVID syndrome. It's called either post-COVID syndrome or long COVID. And this is where those symptoms last way more than the 2 weeks, 4 weeks or more. If by 4 weeks you're not completely better, or maybe if you got better and then you feel like the symptoms came back,
Mm-hmm.
then this might be post-COVID syndrome. Or could it be something else? It very well could be, but it could be post-COVID syndrome. And some of the symptoms of post-COVID would just be feeling like really tired and weak. You just never made it back to your
Normal
baseline,
self.
right? You just never made it back to your baseline prior to COVID infection. Some people still have fever off and on. Some people have shortness of breath. That's what they find they used to be able to walk up a flight of stairs, and then after having COVID, they can't even walk up a flight of stairs without taking 2, 3 breaks in between.
Mm-hmm.
Some people have this persistent dry cough. And again, this can last the post COVID syndrome or the long COVID syndrome, as it can be called as well. It can last for weeks, it can last for months, it can even last for years. Some people also notice that after the COVID infection, they have a hard time, especially like say they had underlying health issues, diabetes or high blood pressure, they have a harder time managing those issues, harder time getting their blood glucose back under control for a diabetic, harder time to get the blood pressure under control for people with hypertension, high blood pressure. And some people have a problem that, like, they just have this mental fog, the memory. They
Mm-hmm.
just confused afterwards. They're not remembering things like they used to. They get confused a lot. They have a lot of headaches. They might have problems sleeping, dizziness when they're standing up, some numbness in the fingers
Fingers.
and yeah, and the fingers and toes. And some people just irritable. They now develop mental health issues like depression and anxiety. We've seen a lot of that, um, uh, post COVID. Some people have problems with, and almost every organ system can be affected with the long COVID or post COVID-19 syndrome. Digestive problems, diarrhea, belly pain. We talked about the fatigue, but also joint pain and muscle pain.
Mm-hmm.
Some people have issues with their heart because the heart gets continually inflamed. So they might have chest pain. They might feel palpitations or the feeling like your heart is beating fast. Um, some people even develop blood clots after COVID, particularly with in peds. This was something we're not seeing it as much as the COVID becomes endemic. But what would happen with the kids? we would they would have COVID, and then they might have had COVID like maybe a week or two before. Now the actual COVID test is negative,
Hmm.
but they have antibodies, and then they developed this post-inflammatory syndrome. It was called MISC, and we saw that a lot in kids where their body cleared the COVID infection initially. They developed antibodies, and then after that, that's when they developed this, multi-system inflammatory syndrome, which presented they would have blood clots. So we saw that a lot. That was happening a lot in kids, and it could definitely happen um, in adults where they develop the blood clot in the leg, and if it
Hmm.
travels to the lungs, well,
Can be big
that's
problems.
never a
Doc,
big problem.
yeah, Doc, tell us something. You talk about mental health just a while ago. Break this down a little bit more. You talk about after COVID, after post-COVID, people can suffer with mental health. Take that apart for us.
Well, a couple things. It could be for many reasons as well, right? So, first, emotionally, just dealing with being sick in general and how the world was during the initial sheltering in place, the isolation, just the lack of sunlight, the lack of fresh air because everybody was stuck at home. That is not good for anyone's mental health. So that could be part of it, right? The increased rates of depression that came about just because of the isolation and just being not around people as we should, even though we had technology and everything like that. It's not the same as being able to see someone and get a
Oh
hug from
yeah.
someone. You know, that actually produces certain chemicals in the brain that regulate your mood. You see, you're smiling even when I just did this and mentioned
Yeah,
a
that's a
hug.
connection. That's a connection. Yeah, yeah.
Just the
Mm-hmm.
mention of it was enough.
Mm-hmm.
Just the mention of it. So imagine
Doc,
getting a
hold a
hug,
last, stick a pin,
you know?
stick a pin there. Hold a last word. I allow you to go back to that. I'm telling you the truth. From COVID started, I think was just recently I really hugged someone. Of course, Tiffany and I would hug at home and so on, But I, for the past 3 years, someone out of the family, I good friends, even people I was hugging before COVID, and it's a connection. It's true, it's a connection. So
How
people,
did it feel? How
uh,
did it feel?
of course, it feels good because
How
you're
did it feel?
connecting now. You're connecting, you're connecting. And Tiffany was asking a question in the chat there was very relative to that. In regards to being in open space, you're not hugging, but people are sneezing and all this kind of thing, what to do. Of course, she's just opening up the line with those questions. But you can go back to that thing about the mental health and so on.
Some of it was just that lack of physical connection
Connection.
that produces certain chemicals in the brain, the feel good chemicals in the brain, the oxytocin,
Mm-hmm,
Um,
mm-hmm.
but then we also know that the infection itself, I was talking about that before, that there's a lot of research that, you know, a direct connection between the brain and how the inflammation around the brain that can happen during a COVID infection. So it could be directly related to
Right.
the infection itself, like what the infection is doing to the neurotransmitters of the brain, those feel good chemicals, decreasing them and changing the connections, the way the neurons are firing, not to get so intricate. So, just definitely from the COVID and virus itself, what it's doing to the
Mm-hmm.
brain. then also just the emotional piece of it, that lack of being around people, that lack of intimacy. We are social beings, human
Yeah.
beings, social. We we have to have a connection in order to just be. We need that connection to other people. That's the difference between human beings and other animals or other mammals, for example. Yeah.
So you're
So
saying it's just like a baby having a baby and not bonding with that child. A lot of things can happen to the child if you are not bonding with
good
the child.
connection. Yeah,
Hmm.
exactly. If you're not bonding with the child becomes withdrawn. They isolate themselves. They're very socially awkward. You
Hmm.
know, yeah, that's a good connection.
Okay. What are some of the effects, more effect you can share with us that someone can have beside mental health that literally affect the system of not connecting with other people?
Well, let's think about how we feel when, like, say you haven't heard from a family member in a while,
Hmm.
someone you're really close to, and you just haven't heard from them in a while. You haven't seen them in a while. Maybe they're not coming out to family gatherings, or if it's it could be a friend, or someone who you attend the same church with. You haven't seen them in church for a few weeks. Think about how it makes you feel. How I would feel. First of all, I would feel concerned.
Yes.
I would worry. I would think if something happened to them. And then you also have to remember that there are certain emotions that can cause a lot of stress,
Hmm.
right? The way we handle certain emotions can be very stressful. And when your body's under stress, it produces stress hormones. The stress hormones come from the adrenal glands, which sit just above your kidney. And those stress hormones, that is what produces that fight or flight response. So your blood glucose gets raised. And if it stays raised for a prolonged period of time because you're worried or you're angry or you're anxious or you're nervous for an extended period of time, then what happens if your blood glucose just stays high for an extended period of time? That's how we develop diabetes.
Hmm.
Because if you're under stress, the body will want to produce more glucose because that is the main energy source. That's what we use for energy. Your blood pressure and your heart rate also has to be elevated because your body's trying it's under stress, so your body has to decide if it needs that extra energy to stay around and fight because you're
Hmm.
under attack, or if you need that extra energy to run away. And what happened? Run away from danger. Even though your body's not under like this acute stress,
Hmm.
that is the environment that's being created when your body produces too much stress hormones. And if we're not handling the emotions properly, that is what can happen. Your body produces way too many stress hormones. So if your blood pressure stays raised for an extended period of time, that's how you develop high blood pressure. If your heart rate stays raised for an extended period of time, that affects your heart as well, and that can lead to heart disease. So I say all of this because sometimes I have people who I work with, and they say, "Well, doc, I don't even know how I developed high blood pressure. It doesn't
Hmm.
run in my family. I eat right. I'm not eating a lot of salt. I'm drinking water. I exercise. I don't eat a lot of fat. I eat healthy." They're saying they're doing the right things. I'm getting enough sleep. And then I start to delve a little bit more, and I say, Hmm. Well, is there something that you're concerned about? Something that you're worrying about? Is there someone that you're concerned about? Someone that you're worried about? Has anything been on your mind lately? You know? And initially they say, no, no, everything is good. I
Yeah.
think we're just, I think we're just used to saying everything is
It's a
good.
natural reaction, right?
How you doing? Oh, I'm great. I'm great.
Fine.
Even if your house is burning down, oh, I'm great. Everything is
Yeah.
fine. And sometimes we don't voice it, right? Because sometimes we think if we voice it, that somehow that makes the problem worse. I've heard this
Hmm.
when some of my clients tell me that. Well, I don't want to put it into the universe. I don't want to claim it. I'm not, and so that's the idea that we get, that talking about it somehow means that you bring it onto you more. But what's happening on the inside of your
Hmm.
body is a lot different. Those stress hormones are circling, right? And that's how sometimes we develop these chronic health issues when we don't seemingly have any significant risk factors, for example. I don't know if that makes
Yeah,
sense.
yeah. But
So when you're dealing with the emotion, you have these emotions that you're not processing in the right
mhm.
way. Um, Things could be going on the inside. Those hormones could just be being released on a large scale from your adrenals, and it's just sitting there and wreaking havoc on your
I,
body.
I want to ask a question as we talk about stress. You jump on that stress thing because I was about to talk to you about it, and you get on it
Oh,
first before me. I want to ask a question. Can someone stress by themselves?
yeah, of course.
I asked a
Of
question
course,
for the
that's
world, actually, because
that's
I
part of
believe some
but
people.
that's part of the problem.
Huh?
But that's part of the problem, because sometimes we want to take care of, we want to deal with all these things by ourselves. We don't want to bother some of it, and I'm just saying from what I hear it when you know my clients talk to me, my patients talk to me. Sometimes it's they don't want to bother people with their
Hmm.
problems, because they say, no, everybody has problems and this one has its worse off than me. I
Hmm.
shouldn't even be complaining. So some of it, they don't want to bother people, bother, I'm putting
Hmm.
that in
Yeah, I got
quotes,
it. I got it.
people with their
Hmm.
problems. Sometimes it's more like what I said, where they feel that talking about it um, somehow means that you condone it, somehow means that you're like taking it on more, and like things are going to get worse,
Hmm.
right? And sometimes to um when you don't talk about it with other people, and when I say other people, you also have to find the right people to talk to. That's why it's important sometimes to go to a professional, because you need someone that's trained to listen in a non-judgmental
Hmm.
way, and not somebody's going to be like, what are you talking about, why should who's not going to validate what you're feeling, without, because we want someone to validate what you're feeling, not condone it per se, but also help you work through that emotion. And a lot of times what happens is we get in our own head, right? And I wonder this, I wonder that. Why is this happening? They must think this, they must think that. What if this person, why they, we start that whole thing,
Hmm.
and you're in your own head. And some people just need an actual physical person that is trained and professional to really work those things out, because you could have like an actual conversation. It's different now. I see it different than because sometimes I'm saying this because sometimes what my clients tell me when I ask, do you have someone to talk to? They say, no, I just talk to God. And I say, yes, that's good. But
You want to see somebody.
yeah, and some because you need somebody like that's there physically. Now, some people feel the presence of God physically, and some people actually hear the presence of God, like someone else talking to them. I've heard that too.
Hmm.
I know me, that's not what I feel. I
You want to
know
talk to
that,
somebody.
yes, I want to talk
Same
to
here.
somebody.
Same here.
And,
Same
and,
here.
and we have to give people the permission that it is okay to talk to somebody and that it's not necessarily going against God if you feel the need to talk to somebody. You can talk to God the same way. You can listen to God and reason with God in the same way. But sometimes you just need, like how you and I are talking,
Hmm.
you know? So I say it like that because sometimes when I'm working with my clients who are very devout Christians and they're not used to talking about their problems at all,
Hmm.
or even talking to, like, seeking out counseling per se, it's very difficult to get them to that point where they feel that it's okay and it's not against God. How do you deal with that? I'm
Yeah.
sure you've had to deal with this
Doc,
because I know I deal with it a lot.
with me, I'm glad you asked. With me, I do not like to sit in a corner and take problems on. I know it's a stressor, and I would prefer to get some help. Even I love going to the seniors and talk, and to hear their experience and how they fought through the same problem that I'm going through. You understand? But there are some people who have to hide themselves away in a corner, and just bubble on it. And next few weeks is because they are lying in the hospital bed. I am not doing that. I always tell people that if I have to die, it won't be from stress. You
Yes.
understand? But we are coming to the closing moments. But there's a question here I want to ask you before I ask the final question on stress. Running away from your problems, what are some of the internal problems beside the physical, what we would see? Somebody's stressing, they look droopy. What are some of the internal problems that can take place? Running away from your problems and not dealing with them.
It actually depends on the person
Mm-hmm.
because people stress presents in people in a different way, right? In all different ways. Some people who are stressed can get anxious, they start to worry, or they can be depressed, right? That some people, and you can see it on them.
Mm-hmm.
You can see that they look tired. They may the way they dress might be different. Um, they might look disheveled. They might start losing weight. They might gain weight. Some people you can just see stress on them. And I believe those people are easier to work with because you can see the signs. So now you can reach out to them and, work with them. But there's some people who could be under stress and it just never show physically at all. They're very good at masking those symptoms. They're still functioning. They're still doing everything they need to be doing. Some people actually become more productive, it seems, more productive on the outside. They're getting more things done, it seems like. They seem more
You are
successful
using the word seems all the time.
because that's what it seems to the
Mm-hmm.
to us who are outside looking in. They're like because think about it. I don't know if this reached overseas, but there was a very popular dancer. he was like on this talent competition show. He was a young black guy. He seemed to have it all. He was married, had a beautiful wife, three beautiful children. He had a great job. He was always on social media and posting all these positive things and doing all these dance, happy
Mm-hmm,
stuff.
mm-hmm,
And he just went in his car one day and killed himself. No, he didn't go in his car. He left the car home. The wife thought he was going to work. She noticed that he left the car home. She couldn't find him. Turns out he went to a motel around the corner, wrote a suicide note, and killed himself.
something was going on inside.
But nobody, and
Nobody
I'm
knew.
telling you, everybody was so surprised. Like, what did we miss?
Mm-hmm.
What was there a sign? Everyone kept saying there must have been a sign. He must have told somebody. He
Something.
must have said something. And they were looking at the wife like, so you didn't know your husband was depressed all this time? How could you be living with the man? You're a family. You're eating dinner. You're eating breakfast. You're doing everything, and you didn't know that your husband was
But
depressed and struggling.
but but doc,
I'm saying
some
the
people are
thing
very
about
some people are very good in hiding.
that's what I was saying.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I use this example. So everyone's looking at her and all like his parents and like how could y'all not know that? You just saw him for Christmas. Like how was he in on Christmas Day? You didn't think that he was, and we're all looking like how could this be? But sometimes it's like that
Yeah.
because people hold it in. They're very good at it.
Dying on the
And those
inside.
Yes, those are the people we have to worry for. The people who look disheveled and look depressed,
Mm-hmm.
they probably are better off because somebody would go up to them and say, "Hey, what's going on? I see you looking, oh, I didn't see you at church today. What's going on?" But he was still doing everything, going to work, doing this, active with the kids, and then you just go and you just leave your house one day and just go and do that.
Mm-hmm.
So those sometimes it's hard to say, especially for men. Sometimes that happens more with men than with
Mm-hmm.
women, right? Because sometimes men don't have that feel that they have that space to explore in that way where women we most, and I'm not
Mm-hmm.
don't want to generalize, some men, some women.
Right.
But some women that they find it easier to express themselves and reach out for help if something's bothering them, and some men not so much.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just very difficult sometimes, and that's why it's always good to have forums like this and open forums where we could start the conversation, right? Because we normalize the conversation
Mm-hmm.
about all these different
Take it
kind
down
of
to a
topics.
level.
Yeah, you have to have a safe place to talk about a lot of different things where you feel you won't get judged and you feel like, hey, even if this person doesn't agree with me, there's still a level of respect. And tomorrow when I see this person, they're not going to be looking at me like, why would you say that? They kind of just like, accept it.
Mm-hmm.
And we move on and focus on helping one another.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Okay.
bringing it back to the same issue with COVID, really looking out for one
For each
another.
other. Mm-hmm. Okay,
Yes.
Doc, let me just make a connection and then we come back for our closing comments. Well, we want to thank you for joining the program tonight. Tonight we talk about post-COVID effects. Of course, a lot of different questions came in. We are actually unstressed now. What happens after COVID? We are in the endemic state right now, and we pray that you would actually go back and listen to this program because I think it worth it listening through this program. Dr. Ronda really take it down at a layman level for us so we can understand what is happening, and we ask that you will share this program with somebody. You might find somebody who have been experiencing COVID now or some form of sickness, post-COVID effect. You just want to share this with them so they can listen and find something out of it that will help them on their journey through life. Let me go back to Dr. Rhonda. Well, Dr. Rhonda, we are back here with you, and we are in the final moments of this program. And we would like you to please share what else do you have to tell us on post-COVID. What advice do you have for the people out there in the virtual space, in their homes who are listening, wherever, or who will be listening in the future? What's your advice for them?
Well, first, I want to say, since we're wrapping up, thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome.
This platform is an amazing one because it allows for connection.
Yes.
And with technology, I mean, just look at
How
it. Look
far we
where
are
you
from each
are.
other?
That's what I'm
Thousands of
saying.
miles.
You are where you are.
Mm-hmm.
I'm where I am.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and it's just amazing that we could connect.
Yeah,
Yes,
that's
it would
right.
be better if I was sitting with you and be able to hug you,
Mm-hmm.
but you know what? I'm giving you a virtual
I
hug
thank you
and
so
I'm
much.
glad
Let me hug you back there, Doc. I love you. Yeah,
you.
I love you, love you, love you.
So,
Hmm.
I would
I
say,
felt that one. I felt that one. Honestly,
you
I
felt
felt
it.
that one.
Me
Yeah,
too.
yeah, definitely. I
Me
felt
too.
it. Yeah, it feels
I
good.
felt it
Yeah, yeah,
too.
it feels good. How it felt on your side?
It felt really good.
Good,
It
good,
felt
good, good,
really
good, good,
good.
good, good,
And
good.
that's why I think it's important that we continue to support platforms like this and share platforms like this with everybody because you never know what small nuggets
Mm-hmm.
that was in this program that could save someone's life.
Yeah.
You never really know. We don't want to take each other for granted. We don't want to take the information that's being shared tonight and all the time on this platform for granted. And if I would wrap things up, I always like to keep things simple. I like to kiss it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Kiss, KISS, keep it super simple.
Right, right, right.
Kiss it. I'm going to kiss it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm kissing all of you and I'm keeping it simple. I would say, listen, I mean, there are many things that can divide us. So many things that can divide us. Where our gender, our skin color, our religion, I mean, it's so many different things. The way we eat, the way our language, everything. There's so many different things that can divide us. And sometimes I think we focus a lot more on that. And I think if we focus more on things that unite us and things that we can agree on,
Mm-hmm.
we would all be healthier in the holistic sense of the word. So as we continue to navigate this COVID endemic, not pandemic, COVID endemic, think about what you've learned. You know, think about anything positive that came out of COVID. Because sometimes we focused a lot on you know some negative things tonight, the stress, the long COVID, the mental health. But I want to end on something positive, and I want you to think, and I'll share with you. But I want you to think of something positive that came out of the
Right.
last years of COVID. For me, I found, first of all, I got better at technology. Let's start with that. I
Mm-hmm.
got so good at technology using Zoom, platforms like this, the mic, recording, accessing a recording,
Went to a different
email
level.
things. I mean, my technology, you know, my awareness of technology was taken to another level.
Mm-hmm.
And all the second thing that it made me think about was grace. It made me think about grace, you know, and how, I don't want to sound cliche, but how amazing God's grace is, especially if you are here after COVID. If you are here after COVID,
In the land of the living.
it's nothing but grace.
That's right.
It's nothing but grace that has us here. And even the times when we didn't deserve it.
God
You,
gave
you
us
know,
that.
you know sometimes we don't, sometimes we didn't deserve it.
Yep, yep.
But we got it anyway. So it gave me, I really started understanding that term and what it means. And I started to be more grateful and have a sense of gratitude. And I actually started a gratitude journal. If I'm at my desk, I didn't think about it. I would have shared it's somewhere. It's on my shelf there. We don't have time to get it, but I started a gratitude journal where
Mm-hmm.
I write 3 things every day that I'm thankful for. Just 3. And I
Okay.
write it down in the book. And I went back over the years and looked at what I was grateful for,
Mm-hmm.
and it changed
Okay.
as we went through COVID. And it just made me realize a lot more about me.
Okay. You know,
So
Doc.
I want
Go
each
ahead.
of you to do that too.
Mm-hmm.
Think of something positive that came out of COVID. We know all the negative things, the bad things,
Mm-hmm.
but we're still here. If you're on with us tonight and in our space, our virtual space, you listening to us, you are here. So we could definitely find something
Yeah,
positive
you know,
to it.
yeah. Before I close, I want to just welcome those who have just see came on. Avral, I'm Doname Walcott, Linty Grey Powder, and Linty. We thank you all for joining, and those on the back end we are not seeing the names. We are really happy that you came on tonight. We had Dr. Rhonda Cambridge with us, and Doc, we are so happy that you came on. And by the way, Dr. Rhonda would be on with us every fourth Sunday. You know, she vowed that every fourth Sunday she would be on unless there's an emergency, and we really thank you publicly, Doc, for that. You know, for giving up your busy schedule to be on with us every fourth Sunday. And I like how you take it spiritually a while ago because the Bible tells us that God say, "He wish that we prosper and be in good health." Beside everything else, COVID and any other sickness and any disease, you know, God says that He wish that we prosper and be in good health. In everything, we must acknowledge God. In our eating, in our drinking, in everything, we must acknowledge God. Well, Doc, we thank you so much for joining. You know, I just don't want to let you go. You're feeling like you're just 2 feet away from me. You know, because I'm seen right here
I
through the camera
know.
lens. You know, and but you know, every good thing come to an end, and I'm sure that there are folks who would
Right.
be looking at this program in the future. You know, I'm really delighted in having you tonight on the program. You know, it feels so warm. Thank you for joining, and thank you for being part of the Move for Change family. We have a doctor on board
You
with
know
us.
what? You're so welcome. It's my pleasure. And you know what? As much as you think I'm imparting to you and giving to you and your audience, there's so much I'm receiving,
Right.
right? There's so much I'm receiving. So we are all in this together. We're working together, and it's just a pleasure, and it's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me. And I'll be back. Don't worry.
Yeah,
I'll be
yeah,
back.
God's willing, you know. Thank you so much again for joining tonight and the information that you imparted to us. You know, you see, you took it down so just so simple, and that's how I like. And as I can say, as you said, let's just kiss it, keep it simple. Keep it. Love you, dog. Take care of yourself. Love you. Take care of yourself. Bye now. And we talk on the back end in a little bit from now. Bye to everybody
All
who is viewing
right.
this program.
Bye,
We want to
everybody.
say we love you and God loves you best. And please share this program with somebody. This program is also recorded on YouTube. You know, there are some people who do not like Facebook. You can go to YouTube and look at this program. We continue to send out the link. Tiffany will be doing a great job in doing that. And we thank you again for joining. Have a safe night and take care of yourself. In everything that you do, acknowledge God. Bye bye.